I'm going to be talking about Babel or Babel, depends on where you're at and how you call it. But essentially, Babel is a transcompiler that will take next generation JavaScript and turn it into readable ES5 JavaScript, which means that you can then run it on Node or on a browser, at least some of the more modern browsers. There's still some that you can't run it on. And I say next generation because it's not only ES6, but actually it's also ES7. Because like ES6 now has been like finalized, and we're going to start seeing it roll into some of the newer browsers, usually the ones that we use. But ES7 is a lot of proposals and whatnot, but a lot of the people behind Babel are at the forefront of this. So they're writing these things out so that they can start playing with these different proposals. But they're behind experimental flags, so don't worry. You don't have to mess with them if you don't want to. So here's their website. There's like a ton of good instructions on here on how to use this thing. I'm going to show you a few examples of how to use this thing that hopefully will apply to something that you can actually start using. So the first thing is that it's a CLI tool, but you can also use it programmatically within JavaScript. I'm going to be using the CLI tool, but pretty much the options come across the same exact way. So first off, we need to start writing some ES6 code. So let me write. So there's classes in ES6, so I'm going to write a class, and I'm just going to make a class foo, and it's going to need a constructor. And as you can see, this doesn't look like JavaScript, the stuff that we write. This is totally different. And actually, what I want to do is pass some like options to this, but I'm also going to give it like a default argument, so that way it's always an object. I can count on it being that, and we'll just console log that out just to show you that this is working. So type of options, and we're also going to do like a basic like greet function, our greet method. And we're going to pass an argument of name, and then we're going to return hello name. As you can see there, I'm actually using string interpolation, new to ES6. So now we want to actually do something with this, so I'm just going to say const foo is equal to new foo. I'm not going to pass anything to it, so that way we can see default arguments working. And then we're going to say console log, and then foo.greet JSLA. Now, let's say I want to run this on Node. I'm a Node developer. I just want to run an ES6 file. So Babel comes with not only the Babel command, which, as you can see, it will do nothing if I don't pass it anything, but also Babel Node, which this one's kind of straightforward. Essentially, you're running Babel inside of Node, or you're essentially doing a wrapper around Node that will then transform all of your code into ES6, or transfer all of your ES6 code into ES5 so it can be ran on Node. So all I'm going to do is point it towards this file, which is in Babel Node directory. Let's see. And then index, or is it main? What is it? Main.
Did you intend to type Babel or Babel?
Yeah.
At the beginning, the first word.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, guys. I'm terrible at spelling. And then I got to fix the other one again. All right. Cool. So we got the type of object. So I actually didn't pass anything there. The default arguments worked in hello JSLA, which did string interpolation. But as you can see, it didn't show any of the compilation. It did it on the fly while I was running inside of Node. Let's say you're not lucky to use Node at your work or in any of your projects. You just write client apps. So you need to be able to transcompile this, which is the regular Babel command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my contents in this file, and I'm going to go over into this file here. We're just going to paste over what's here. So we already know it console logs out object and hello JSLA. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run, instead of Babel node, I'm just going to run Babel, and then I'm going to pass it my file, which was index.js. Now, as you can see, it just outputted it to the standard out. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy this for right now. And it's readable to a certain extent. There's some crazy stuff in here. And I'm going to take this over into my browser. So you can see this is just ES5 code. And we have the console log object and hello JSLA. So we transcompiled ES6 code, and we're now running it inside of a browser. Granted, you don't want to copy and paste it from your standard out and then paste it into your browser's console. That's not logical. So what you can do with Babel is you can actually output it to a file. So I'm just going to do it out to a file called compiled without the dash. It's going to be -o. So -o is output, or you can do output dash file. It's going to run. So it compiled it, and we'll just run that on Node with a regular Node command, and then compilation, and then compiled. And as you can see, it's the same thing, except that ran a lot faster. I don't know if you noticed with the last time I ran it, ran pretty slow because it was compiling the files and then running them. So let's say you're like using something like an Electron project where you don't really have access to Node. So you can't really be like, oh, I'm going to use Babel Node to run it. In that instance, you don't really have a way to, besides there's this thing called a Babel register, which will allow you to register all of the require statements inside of Node and pretty much hook into that and then compile those things while you're essentially requiring them. And of course, it's a little bit slower. You're doing compilation, but it does work. So I have this require transform. So I have an ES6 file here. It's just another foo class. I'm doing some more stuff with it, passing some arguments to it and pulling things out. But I also have this index file. So this is ES5. It's actually a little bit of ES6, just the const, but I'm running it in IO.js so I can actually use those type of things. And as you can see, I'm just using require. It looks like basic code that maybe you work with on a day-to-day basis, except I have require Babel and then /register. So what I can do with this is actually now I can run node and then the require transform and then the index file. And as you can see, it console logged all my stuff out. We can go back and verify that those are the right things. But it actually, I'm able to run ES6 code in files that I require. So the only thing that sucks about this is that the base file, your entry point file, has to be ES5. You can't write ES6 inside of it, because essentially we're just overriding the require statement. So that's really cool. So you're able to now use it inside of Node. You're able to use it inside of a client app. There's actually things for doing, like if you use Browserify, there's Babelify, there's Gulp Babel. They have plugins for everything. And it's really cool. It's like production ready. There's a ton of people already using Babel, and it's, Yahoo's using it. I actually have a list here because they have it all over their website. Cloudflare, Netflix, Airbnb. And it's actually used in some really cool projects. Ghost, Atom, the editor, which I have been editing the stuff on. So it's really cool. I suggest, even if you don't really like doing transcompiling stuff, you want to play around with the new version of the language, download Babel and just play around with it and see if you can actually make something. Thank you.